My next one might be stealing your thunder a little.
Oh boy.
Um, I don't know. Is the next one on your list a big one?
Oh, it is. So I think
Okay.
I know what one
Yeah.
you're gonna bring up. So go ahead.
We're at the same point then. This is a shared one. I
This
won't
is
steal
one
your
of the
thunder.
big
This is
ones we've been
shared.
wanting to get to.
This is Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Or is it Spider-Man Across the
Spider-Man
Spider-Verse?
Across the
Okay.
Spider-Verse. And
Uh,
2024 will be Beyond the Spider-Verse.
awesome. And so this is coming out, fingers crossed, June 2nd.
It was supposed to come
And
out in October. I remember
yeah,
going to
so
Spider-Man No Way Home and being like, all right, in 10 months from now, we'll be doing this again.
mhm. But no, instead it was about like 16 months from now or something.
Yeah.
Um, so this is the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which both of us were absolutely in love with. It was my
Oh,
number
yes.
two favorite movie of the year. Of that year, was it your number one? I
It
can't
was my
remember.
number one. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I still like this movie has stuck with me, and I've only liked it more ever since. It really is one of the best animated movie in a large group. This is a large, generous group, but it's
Yeah.
one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. In
And
many
especially
ways.
when you consider, like, I don't know if people know this, like, how many comics they crammed into that movie and made it work. Like, you had
Yeah,
the origin of Miles, the Prowler storyline, Spider-Man by Bendis, the Spider-Verse storyline, plus Peter breaking up with MJ storyline that J.
yeah.
Michael Straczynski did, while also introducing Kingpin.
Hmm. And like it also, like we mentioned in a previous episode, it like inspired at least two animation studios to do
Yes.
something similar. Like it had like genuinely innovative new animation style, which is amazing. Spider-Man. And
Oh, exactly.
so yeah,
Couldn't
this
say
is
incredible unless we were talking about Hulk.
nah, yeah, this is amazing. Maurice. No, but that's why this is definitely one of my most anticipated movies of the years. Um and we got a trailer fairly recently, and
That's right. And we also, yesterday, I'll bring it up late when I talk about it in a second, but we did have a bit of breaking news. Not important. It's not going to be like, oh my God, this affects the movie. It's going to be even better. But
yeah.
it's a fun little tease of a fun
Cool.
little quick thing.
Yeah.
I've already seen some people are creating way too high expectations for this one little thing, but we'll
Okay.
get to it in a second.
Okay. Yeah, I guess what are your thoughts so far in this movie? I feel like I at the very least feel like this trailer has increased the hype, I think, for both of us, it sounds like.
Oh, yes. So, like I said, I love Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I've brought up before that Peter B. Parker, Jake Johnson's Peter B. Parker, is my favorite movie version of Spider-Man. As much as I love Toby's, even though he kind of is kind of the Toby version years later, but
Hmm.
I love Toby's, love Andrews, but my favorite one is Jake Johnson's Peter B. Parker. And I guess we'll talk about the trailer for a little bit, but one I will be honest about something. I will be honest. There are two things that make me a little concerned about the movie, and then we'll get into some of the fun stuff.
Okay.
One thing I'm a little concerned about is how they're going to do a spin-off movie about Gwen with another group of spider people. I think it's a female spin-off, so you'll probably see Jessica Drew, stuff like that. And they said, this movie sets it up.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, first, if you want to do that movie, that's great. But last time you used a movie to set up a universe, you killed the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. So and that's kind of what that movie was. It was kind of a filler episode that set up some later stuff. Even though I still liked Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Hmm.
Sony saying we're gonna set it up makes me a little concerned. And that's nothing I saw from the trailer or something, but it's a little bit of a remember
Hmm.
what happened last time, guys?
Yeah. No, I can see if you're focusing too much on like trying to set up other spin-offs, it would take away from the the quality of the movie itself. Even though I do like, I don't have a ton of attachment to the character, but I think that Spider Gwen like seems cool. I think I'm just transfixed by how cool the design of the suit is. I think that's really it. I think it's a great art direction, but so I'm kind of like, convince me that this will be a good like little spin-off, because I'm willing to for it to be a good spin-off that I can enjoy. But yeah, there's definitely potential for it to, like, it would mess things up and take away from the plot if you're spending too much time just trying to set something else up.
Yeah. And I like Spider-Gwen too. Although in general, I kind of think that the Spider-Gwen concept was a bit of a lazy cheat to bring Gwen Stacy back from the dead, because she kind of transfers over to the main Marvel universe, I think. But it's been a while since I've read some current Marvel stuff. I'm behind. I'm like reading stuff from 2004 right now. But in the movies, I think she's great. The Spider-Verse movie, I love Spider-Gwen. The other thing is, we talked about it on the last episode, which we recorded yesterday. I think Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, as much as we loved Into the Spider-Verse, as much as we loved No Way Home, as much as we're looking forward to Flash and this movie, I think Doctor Strange really burst the bubble on people's excitement for multiverse stuff. And sure, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was Into the Spider-Verse, but really, how much of it was a multiverse story when you think about it? Like, there was the multiverse stuff was more like Peter going to a world where he died, which was kind of like It's a Wonderful Life, like him seeing this version of himself. It wasn't like there was one other Peter Parker in Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir, but that's a very different version. It wasn't like it was a bunch of Peter Parkers together and stuff like that.
Right.
One thing that the trailer did concern me about a little bit is it may rely too much on the multiverse gimmick.
Yeah.
And because what we're seeing in there, we didn't see in the first movie, which was more grounded. Like, it wasn't, besides the multiverse stuff, was more like, this isn't the world that Peter Parker is from, versus this is like very much lean into it. So I do kind of worry they might lean a little too much into that gimmick that like Doctor Strange did. But one thing that kind of like makes me feel a little better was the opening monologue we see with the trailer with Miles's mom, which I rewatched the trailer before we recorded this. That whole thing of like, she's been watching over this boy his whole life, and I don't remember if it said how long it's been since the first movie.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, and she talks about like try to keep that little boy inside like still the same, so it looks like it's still going to have that heart that the first movie had. And I think a lot of this movie is going to be about parents and their kids, because I don't know if you saw this in the trailer, but our buddy Peter B. Parker is carrying around a little baby with him. Little Mayday Parker.
Wow.
That's right.
Congrats.
That's right. They're doing MC2 Spider-Man, Spider-Girl, which is like, for me, that was like Batman Beyond, like the perfect way to end the Spider-Man story. So it's like kind of just cool. Like they're doing like exactly what I would want. Like,
that's awesome.
And it's like combined, like he's mentoring Miles, and we also have Spider-Girl will eventually, a few decades, but there's that. And when I look at this trailer, one of the things, as much as I loved Into the Spider-Verse, there was one thing that felt a little missing. Just one. If you're doing a Spider-Verse movie, and that was Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, which he does have a appearance in the post-credits scene with the original Spider-Man from 1967. And I am so glad he's such an important character in this movie. Again, we see Miles kind of looking at a screen about Miguel with his daughter, which again seems like being a parent's going to be a big theme in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was so glad to see Peter B. Parker back again. I was so glad, just him, and he's got a bathrobe and everything. It was great to see.
Yeah.
So it looks like there was one thing that people have been sharing on Twitter that's it's made me laugh, because if you're a Spider-Man comic book fan, you know the frustration about there. People are saying, Miles is going to be the villain of the movie because he had Peter and MJ get back together and have a kid, and Marvel doesn't like that. They want Peter Parker single and lonely.
Oh yeah.
So whole one more day situation, but stuff with Miles looks great. I love that opening scene with his mom, and we had that scene. I want to bring up 2 Easter eggs real quick. And look, people online are making a bigger deal of it than they should. It's a fun little visual gag, okay? And maybe you saw me post about it on Facebook. I don't know, but in the trailer, because I didn't notice it the first time, I saw it the second time because I watched it 3 times in a row. One of the Spider-Men chasing Miles is Spider-Man from Spider-Man Unlimited, the animated series from 1999, which, because it's a sequel to the 90s show that starred Christopher Daniel Barnes, that is my childhood Spider-Man chasing after Miles.
Oh.
So that was cool to see. Like, there's a nice little reference. Now, don't expect him to have a role like Tobey and Andrew did in No Way Home, because in this movie, Peter Parker is the Jake Johnson version. This was just a fun little visual gag. I honestly think what we saw in the trailer is all you'll see of him in the movie.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know what they did? They made it so that after 21 years, when you go through the shows and end with Spider-Man Unlimited, it doesn't end on a big cliffhanger. We finally don't have that big cliffhanger. Guess what? When he's in the building and it starts to cave in, he lived. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice to have a little reassurance?
Oh, yeah, that is actually pretty big.
Yeah, it's fine. It got wrapped up, and then he got into the Spider-Verse, and then he probably went back home.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah. So, and also another thing I think we have to bring up is Christopher Daniel Barnes. He wasn't Spider-Man Unlimited, but he was the voice actor from the 90s show. He actually came out and said that he's not in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, you could say, well, what about Tom Holland? What about Andrew? He denied it, but the difference was people interviewed Andrew Garfield on TV shows, and he had to lie. Versus a similar situation was in the What If show. People thought Josh Keaton was going to be Spider-Man in the Marvel Zombie show, and he couldn't say anything because of his NDAs.
Yeah.
So the fact that Christopher Daniel Barnes actually said something, that definitively proves that he's not in the movie, because otherwise he would have had to be silent about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just a quick little visual gag. Don't expect it to be much more than that. And there was a piece of breaking news that happened with the movie. Again.
Okay, I'm curious.
Expect a visual gag that lasts for 5 seconds at max. In the poster, we see Spider-Man from the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. So at some point, if you pause the movie, you'll see him in the crowd, which is going to be very cool to see. See that, all right, in the Spider-Verse, they got my 2 favorite versions of Spider-Man. With my 3rd favorite, Jake Johnson. So again, it's just going to be a quick visual gag. It's not going to be much. Just go in, get excited for, if you're excited for a version of Peter Parker, be excited for Jake Johnson's version. But I'm looking forward to it. I think that, I think moving forward, because I don't know, if they're going to keep doing this franchise after the third one. I think you probably can because it's not like you have to worry about the actors aging.
Right.
I've always felt like the Trinity would be Peter, Miles, and Gwen, but I think there will be a fourth member who will be as big continuing on. And that will be Miguel O'Hara. So
Yeah.
hopefully, with all these Spider-Man, we'll see at least a cameo of the other three from the first movie: Penny Parker, Spider-Man Noir, and Spider Ham. So
Yeah.